So I'll be discussing mostly 4 cards today, which are Branded Lost, Tri-Brigade Mercourier, ALBION the Shrouded Dragon, and SPRINGAN's KITT. These cards are quite interesting because they have not seen much competitive play in the OCG, whereas now in the TCG, everybody and their mother is playing them. I'll start by covering Branded Lost because it has something that is in common with every other monster that I just listed. Branded Lost is a pretty interesting continuous spell card because it acts as a magical meltdown in the sense where your opponent cannot negate the activation of your cards and effects that would include a fusion summon, and on top of that, your opponent cannot do anything on the summon of your monster. Now, that's really important because let's just say you have your Branded Fusion and your opponent has Solemn Judgment. He can't use Solemn Judgment to negate your Branded Fusion because that would try to negate the activation. And on top of that, if you have Lubellion, well, that you can summon off of Branded Fusion, and you use the effect, your opponent cannot use Effect Veiler on the Lubellion because you are still on the window of the summon of your fusion monster, and that is being protected by Branded Lost. So in other words, it is really hard to stop the Mirror Jade from hitting the field, and you getting your search with the DESPIA Tragedy. Please note, however, that Ash negates the effect and not the activation, so therefore you can negate Branded Fusion even under Branded Lost. However, Ghost Bell negates the activation, so if you want to, let's say, negate something like Branded in red, you usually could, but because of the fact that Branded Lost exists, you will not be able to do that under these circumstances. Now, another relevant thing that you can do with this card would be to search a monster that includes Fallen of Albaz in its card text, which is pretty interesting because there's ALBION, SPRINGAN's KITT, and Tri-Brigade Mercourier, and that's the reason why I actually talked about them briefly at the very start of the video. The most simple one is ALBION the Shrouded Dragon. Honestly, all it really does is kind of act as an upstart goblin and a foolish burial goods, but unless you're playing Branded Condemnation, your card that you're foolishing with ALBION the Shrouded Dragon most likely isn't really doing much unless you have a DESPIA Tragedy in your graveyard that you can banish to reset that Branded Spell or Trap that you just sent, but otherwise it's really just a card that allows you to draw one card. And of course, it's searchable with Branded Lost and some other cards, and that's the reason why it's still being played as a one-of. The next card on the list is Tri-Brigade Mercourier, a searchable monster negate, but it negates the effect and not the activation, and if you do, destroy it, so it's pretty good against hand traps, for example, because if your opponent uses something like Ash, it doesn't matter whether you negate the effect of Ash or negate the activation and destroy, it really doesn't change anything because it sends itself to the grave. Whereas if your opponent went, let's say, normal summon Stratos, you'd rather negate and destroy than just negate, because it could be used as a body to keep making, link plays, so that is something that you have to keep into consideration when you're playing a card like Tri-Brigade Mercourier. But the second effect of the card is actually something not to sleep on, because if it gets banished, you can search a monster that also lists Fallen of Albaz in its card text, and that is really important because you can search your Albion, which again is the upstart goblin, or the final card, SPRINGAN's KITT. SPRINGAN's KITT is basically just another Aluber, but for poor people, I want to say, almost. So it's definitely not the kind of card that you want to play as a 3 of, because yeah, sure, it searches a Branded Spell or Trap from your deck, graveyard, and even banished, but at the same time, it does have the disadvantage of forcing you to put a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck after you search, but that's basically the only drawback, and I guess it's not summonable off a Branded opening. Still a very nice card though, you can easily search it because it does list Fallen of Albaz in its card text, and one thing to keep into consideration with this card is that if you draw Aluber and SPRINGAN's KITT, you can actually summon both, because SPRINGAN's KITT is actually an extender that can special summon itself from the hand if you control or have in the graveyard a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as a material. The healthiest ratio of all these cards to play would be 1 of each, because otherwise you're going to be drawing a lot of duplicates and stuff like that. You're going to clog on redundancy, and that's not really something that you're trying to go for, and they function the best in the pure build over the brave build, which I actually don't even think you need those cards because the Griffin Rider negates hand traps anyways. So yeah, nice package, not too expensive, has a lot going for it, but that's pretty much all I had to say for this, I guess, semi-engine that you might already have been playing for a while in your DESPIA deck. So let me know, guys, how you actually think about this package in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.